The expected launch of StarField is just a few months away, and the big question that everybody's asking themselves right now is, can your PC run it? It's difficult to answer, but I'm going to do my best. Now, the best place to start is to go and look at the minimum and recommended spec from Bethesda themselves. Now, there's a few things that I find interesting with these. First of all, the 16 gigabytes of RAM, both for minimum and recommended. I was kind of expecting the minimum to be 8 gigabytes and then 16 for recommended. Then we have 125 gigabytes of hard drive space, or SSD. They recommend SSD here, so I guess that's for load time purposes, so you can load faster around. There is one interesting thing, and that is that it is again the same for minimum and recommended. That tells me, both because the RAM is the same requirements here and because of the same disk space for minimum recommended, that tells me that there are no low resolution options. This is common that we see this in some games, that they will offer a low or standard texture pack and then a high resolution texture pack. That doesn't seem to be the case here, because if that was the case, you would probably expect the recommended spec to use less RAM and also have less hard drive space requirement. Another thing that I find really interesting is that a internet connection is only recommended, but not a minimum requirement. Now, this is a big deal, because I know there's going to be a lot of you guys out there who maybe want to play this on a laptop and take it with you, and maybe you're not always in range of Wi-Fi. Being able to play this without an internet connection is a huge plus, and I think it's an absolutely right move for Bethesda, allowing this to be offline single player. Now, in terms of the actual compute hardware, the CPUs and the GPUs, there is something that I noticed here, and that is, if you look at the graphics card, there seems to be a skew towards NVIDIA GPUs over AMD GPUs. We can see that in both the minimum and the recommended spec, you can get away with a 2-year-older NVIDIA GPU compared to an AMD GPU. There seems to be a skew that they may be more focused on making it run on NVIDIA hardware compared to AMD hardware. We see this with other games, so it's not uncommon, but it's just something to keep in mind. Now, while all these specs are fine, the big problem right now when we're looking at this is we don't know what resolutions or what frame rates minimum or recommended is. I mean, does minimum mean 1080-30? Or is recommended, is that 1080-60, or is it 4K 30, or we don't know. So this makes it a little bit more difficult when you have to translate it over to actual resolutions and frame rates. But luckily, Todd Howard comes to our aid here, because in an interview he mentioned that the Xbox Series X is going to be able to run the game at 4K 30, and the Xbox Series S is going to be 1440p 30 FPS. Now that we know that, we can kind of take the hardware performance of those two consoles, and we can translate those over to comparable PC hardware, and then all of a sudden we actually have a hardware to performance benchmark that we can kind of use. I know that the Xbox version, the Xbox graphics card, has more VRAM, so there might be some inaccuracies here, but this is a best guess. This is the whole video is gonna be my best guess. So I made this graph here where I try to take graphics cards from different generations and then put them into to basically bins where you both have 1080, 1440p, 4K, and you have 30 to 60 FPS in that kind of range, and then you have where I'm expecting you're gonna get 60 or more FPS from the graphics card. Again, I really must stress that this is a guess, and this is not a promise. This is my best guess. So as I said, in each category I try to take graphics cards from different generations, so you should now be able to go and find the graphics card you have and then find the generation and then figure out what resolution you want to play at, and you can kind of see what kind of bracket you're in, or whether that's okay for you in terms of performance, or whether you want to upgrade. Now, CPUs is a lot more difficult, and my guess is also that the game is likely going to be GPU bound rather than CPU bound. So my guess is that there's not going to be much performance to gain from going that much above recommended spec when it comes to the CPU. Obviously there will be some, but my gut feeling is that we're not going to get much performance by getting twice the CPU power. It's not going to double your frame rates. It's much more going to be the graphics card that's going to be dictating your bottleneck, or how many frames you're going to be able to push out at a given resolution. Now I have 3 questions that I need you to go down and answer in the comment section below, because I think it will be quite an interesting discussion. What resolution and what frame rate are you hoping to play StarField at? Secondly, what kind of hardware are you running today? And thirdly, are you planning to upgrade that hardware when StarField comes out? Post all that in the comment section below. And while you are heading down there, go ahead and subscribe, as there will be a lot more StarField content coming out when we get closer to launch. Thanks a lot for watching, and also next time, I'll see you guys in space.